Okay, so let's talk polishers. We'll talk about pads later, polishing pads, but let's just talk about polishers right now. Now, as a beginner, you'll probably start out with just a really cheap DA dual action oscillating polisher, but I'll go through just kind of the basics so you know the nomenclature that us professionals use and that you're going to see online a lot. We'll start with the high-speed rotary. We rarely use these anymore, but back in the day, this was the workhorse. This is called high speed because obviously it spins really fast, and tons of power on these things. It's called a rotary because it only rotates, right? We have no dual action on this thing. This thing is way overkill, kind of a dinosaur. It had a variable speed mechanism right here, so you could change the speed. This is what's been used forever in the detailing and body shop industry. Some people that don't want to adopt new methods still use this. That's totally fine. But as a beginner, you don't want a high speed or anything like this. The next is also a rotary polisher, but a step in the right direction as far as usability. This one is a flex. It's also just a rotary, it just spins. This model is just a lot lighter. So ergonomically, after polishing an entire car, your arms aren't dead like noodles. And it's also adjustable, really controllable. But you'll notice the backing plate is a little smaller than this one. You can swap out backing plates to different sizes if you want. Why would you want that? Well, again, back in the day when we were doing an entire car with this, the big backing plate just covered more surface area. Okay, so you could do a lot more quicker. Now we're not so concerned with speed as we are controllability. And so a smaller backing plate like this gives less leverage, less chance for buffer swirls, because the difference in speed between the outside and the inside isn't as much. And also because of that decreased leverage, it's easier to control. The machine can't overpower you, okay? So anyway, those are high speed or just rotary polishers. For beginner, wouldn't recommend. We also have mini polishers. So this is a 3-inch polisher. This is a DA. DA stands for dual action. And what that means is it spins two ways. So see, we have the rotary here, but then it also oscillates like this. You see that? So when you turn it on, it's doing this and this. What that does for you is a couple things. First and foremost is it makes it to where you cannot introduce hologram buffer swirls with this kind of machine. That's revolutionary. And it makes it so much more user-friendly, especially for the beginner, because it makes it more difficult to damage the paint. You got to be trying to damage the paint with a DA, okay? So anyway, this is a mini. Again, as a beginner, you don't want to run right out and buy one of these. This one is a Rupe's mini Bigfoot. I don't remember how much they are. They're fairly expensive for a DIY or beginner. We professionals like them because it just lets us get to the little areas that we can, clearance purposes. Speed adjustments right back here. Okay, and then we're moving up to the bigger ones now. The random orbital, this one's a cordless DA, 6-inch backing plate. And again, DA, dual action oscillating. So it spins this way, and if I can make it do it, and this way. This one is a 15 millimeter throw, which means that movement of that oscillating right there is 15 millimeters. The other one I'm going to show you next is a 21 millimeter. That matters in how much cutting and polishing a polisher can do. So for example, this one, this flex cordless 15 millimeter, it can do pretty good, but we don't use it all the time for a couple of reasons. Actually, we have two of these, but the 15 millimeter just doesn't correct as much as the 21 millimeter. Okay, so it's not quite as effective. The other thing is the cordless, although it sounds really cool, that you go, oh man, cord, you don't need a cord, you can go anywhere. The weight of this is actually quite a bit, And since most of the weight is down here on the battery, ergonomically, it's much more difficult to operate. Your wrists and arms will feel this after a day of using this. Plus the fact that it's only 15 millimeter throw means you're going to be using it longer to achieve the same polishing rate. So cool machine. We use this sometimes just to run outside real quick, polish something for a customer, or maybe show them a before and after or something like that. They have their uses. But again, and these are expensive. I think this is like $500 or something like that. For a DIYer, first timer, I wouldn't run out and buy this, but this is just an example. And then the real workhorse of most detail shops is the 21 millimeter throw, exact same thing, 6-inch pad, oscillates this way, spins this way, dual action. This just moves more, 21 millimeters more. Now they make other brands and other models that throw even more. Honestly, I don't have that much experience with those because they're fairly new, and so I can't really speak to that. I just know this 21 millimeter works really good. Again, this is a Rupes, variable speed here, corded, and so even though it's corded, may seem not as convenient as the cordless. It's balanced more. You know, more of the weight is up here, which is where you want it anyway for polishing. So this is a pretty good machine. Notice I said pretty good, not perfect and not great. They have their longevity issues. But anyway, again, for a first timer, it may be kind of spendy to go out and buy a Rupes unless you know you're going to be doing it a lot. But to cut my teeth, I'd probably do a Harbor Freight or something cheaper first, just to get the gist of it. And then you could step up to something like this. But the concepts I'll show you later are going to be exactly the same with the dual action. Okay, now about pads and backing plates. So you've got your polisher. I'm going to assume you've got something like this with a 6-inch backing plate. Now, here's a little clarification when it comes to pad size. The 6 inches is measured across the back of the backing plate, or the Velcro in the back, not across the face of the pad. Just so that you know, it's not the distance across the face, it's the distance across the back. So make sure you measure that. 6 inches is the most common, but they do make 5s. You know, these, like on this one, is a 5-inch. So make sure you get the right size. The actual pads themselves, you know, the plan on this video is to simplify things for you. The marketplace does not want to make things simple on you. They want to confuse the heck out of you so you don't know what you're buying and you just buy their stuff, which whoever has the slickest marketing, okay? Don't fall for that, okay? Brands and stuff like that, places like Chemical Guys, you know, things that confuse the marketplace. I'm doing my best to simplify, okay? So the size of your pad, then you say, well, which pad? Even within the same brands, there's a million pads. Well, and colors don't correlate to different brands. Some people say, well, what pad do you have, a red one or yellow or what? Well, it depends on the brand. Some people's yellow is aggressive as heck and gonna mar up your paint, but another brand's isn't. So it's all within the brand too, okay, which further adds to the confusion. But most brands will tell you, you know, what they are. Like this one from Eurotech is a brand we like, Buff and Shine. It says medium cut right on it, okay? So we know, what does that mean? Medium. Well, we know it's not going to destroy the paint within 5 seconds of touching it on the paint. And it may not finish it like perfectly well, meaning might leave light marring. You don't know, but it's a good place to start. You can also get the finer, like Rupes brand is another brand, and we like some of their products too. Again, this one is the fine polishing foam pad. So then we know in our shop when we grab a yellow pad, it's going to be fine. When we grab a maroon, it's going to be medium from Eurotech. We switch brands just because we have the experience and try different ones. There's also microfiber and wool pads. There's a million different things, right? But we're trying to simplify. Look at this hairy one. This one is used for just a rotary only, this wool pad, just to show you some options. But again, back to simplifying. These microfiber and wool, blended wool, all these type of things, they have their places, but to simplify, don't buy 6 different pads because you don't have the experience to know the difference in performance between them because there's so many other variables, okay? So don't buy these. Buy like 2 different pads. Buy a medium cut and a fine cut or fine finishing, okay? Just 2 to begin with. And then to put them on, just to kind of show you, I mean, it seems kind of simple, but you do want to try to center it as much as possible on there. So to do that, you're looking through the hole in the middle and then looking through that hole right there and lining them up. Some pads don't have a hole in the middle, in which case you do it from this direction and you just line up the outside of this with the outside of that. Push it on there like that to where it's pretty close. And then I whack it a couple times like that to make sure it's on there and you're ready to go. Okay. One last thing about pad design is see the edges. This lip is important here because this gives you a little bit of space. If you're polishing something that's shaped like this and you're getting in here and you're polishing it like that and that edge comes up like that, you want this foam edge touching it, not the backing plate edge. So if this wasn't here, you would easily hit that, and now you're hitting that edge with your backing plate. I may have one of those pads around. Well, no, here's a perfect example. The edge of this. See, that's not tapered as much. So you could get into that backing plate a little easier, and that can cause damage. Let me see if I have one. Aha, found one way back in the deep, dark recesses. So see this squared off pad? This is the kind that can be dangerous for newbies because you're polishing like this. You got it like this, like under a mirror is the most common thing. On a door, you come up on a mirror. Now that hits your painted surface and scratches it, mars it, whatever. So edge design is important. See this one on the 3-inch mini? Look at how good that is. That gives you a lot of room. So something to look out for. Okay, now let's talk about polishes. What products should you actually use? Now again, the confusion in the marketplace, there is countless myriad polishes you can use. And so I can't tell you exactly, this is good, this is bad. I test a lot of them and I can't even stay caught up on all of them. What I do know is in our shop, we use Optimum Polymer Technologies. So the same company that makes OptiCoat ceramic coating. We use their products because they're proven, tested good over the decades. There's no fillers. There's all kinds of things that polishes say that they do and can't do and will do and all this kind of stuff. One of the main benefits of Optis, and I don't get paid, right? I'm not selling you this product. I don't make any money making this video. So, I have no axe to grind here, something to try to sell you. But what I like about these polishes is A, they're spray on, and B, I really like that they don't turn your trim white. If you get polish up on a white textured plastic trim, it's not going to dry out and turn white later. If the polish you are using does that, or even a wax, that's a surefire sign it's cheap. Do not use that, okay? Toss it in the trash can and use something legit that the professional use. So these 2 products cover like literally 98% of all the paint correction jobs that we do in our shop. Everything from brand new cars to old classics from the 60s. The most popular one, the one we use most, is just called Hyper Polish. The next one is called Intensive Polish. As you can imagine, the intensive polish is a little more aggressive. I don't recommend it for beginners because it just adds another level of complexity that you're most likely going to have to follow it up with this anyway. So let's just start with this. One of the things about being a detailer is simplify. Start with the simplest process and product that's going to achieve your goals. Do not follow the crowd of marketing that says you got to have 17 different products to accomplish a goal. Okay, simplify. Take it from us professionals. I make my living doing this. I'm not going to overcomplicate it, right? I get stuff done with one product that some YouTuber guys take 5 products. Well, because they're trying to sell you something. I'm not selling you anything. So anyway, this is what I use. The product you decide to use, you'll have to just read the label and look through their list of aggressiveness, like how aggressive is this polish, to know if this is a finishing polish or a compound that's really going to cut aggressively. That's something you'll have to figure out on your own. I can do my best, but you want to take my advice? Just go to Opticoat's website and buy this. I think they might even sell it on Amazon. So buy a bottle of this right here. You don't even buy this yet until you know what you're doing, and go from there. So with this product, the spray application, when the pad's new, we give it 2 squirts across the pad like that. It doesn't have to be an X. It can be a circle. Doesn't matter. That just gets some product on the pad. All right. Now, here's kind of the deal. When pads are brand new or when you first put the product on, if I put this on the car and pull the trigger, it's going to start vibrating and it's going to sling this product off. Not the end of the world, but it might get on you. You get a stripe of splatter across you, or it gets up on the car. So put your speed on as low as it'll go and start that way, and it won't sling as bad. Just kind of a professional tip for you. Less cleanup later. Okay, we're almost to the fun part where I actually get to polish. There's a couple of more things before we start. You need to be able to see what you're doing. So get an inspection light. The reason this is important is you can be in your garage or outside or whatever, and you can polish it and you think it looks fantastic. And then you pull it outside and it looks terrible because of the lighting. Okay. Now our shop lights in here are special to try to mimic sunlight as much as possible. That helps. But even we professionals have an inspection light. There's a million different ones that mimic sunlight. That's kind of what you're after. I personally like the Phoenix, what is this, PD35 light. It has 5 different levels of brightness. The medium one mimics sunlight the most. So in other words, when I'm out inspecting a car with a client and he says, oh yeah, the car looks bad, there's hazing, there's marks, that, whatever, we can go out there with the light and look at it in any condition. So bright sunlight, overcast, rain like it is right now, we can look at it. So get yourself an inspection light or adjust your expectations accordingly. Now, if you can do it outside, in the shade, I guess, and polish it and wipe it off and then pull it in the sun and see how it is, fine. But an inspection light is pretty important, so that'll help you see. The next thing, hearing protection on your buffer. They're not so loud they hurt, but that's the problem, is they're just loud enough that long term they can cause damage to your hearing. So you generally don't wear hearing protection. Strongly recommended. So get yourself a pair of these guys. They're super easy to put off and on. Next is towels to wipe off your polish. Here's another just rabbit hole that people think you got to have the fanciest, best, oh my God, expensive, chin hairs of a virgin robin from Tibet woven into a microfiber towel. You don't need that. You need Costco. For a beginner, the Costco microfiber towels work fantastic. I still buy them myself to use. People say, oh, the edge will scratch. See, that's woven into an edge. This is called edgeless, where they've laser cut the edge. So see, there really is no edge there to catch. That's silly. That's, again, things to just sell you stuff. To scratch or mar paint with that edge right there, you'd have to really be trying. You'd have to take it on your finger and go, okay, I'm going to scratch it. And you're going like that. Okay. Don't. Just get Costco microfiber. Go like this. Fold it in half. Fold it in half again. Boom. Right there. Museum quality, show car quality, wipe off. Okay. That's all you need. The only reason in our shop we have different ones is because we want different colors to keep them separate. So we know our yellows we use for interior detailing only. So we scrub on things with this. Even after we wash them, we don't want to take that out and put it on your paint because something might get embedded on it. The blue ones we know only go on paint. Okay, so that's the only reason we have different colors. Otherwise, I'd use all Costco yellows. Okay, so those are a couple of tips here. So let's start polishing this thing and kind of show you. So let me get the camera here and show you up close what we're going to deal with and show you how you can do this. Now in this lighting, I've got two different kinds of lights. You see these LED lights here, and then this is a diffuse lighting for ceramic coating. Anyway, in here, this doesn't look bad. From this distance, this is pretty shiny. So, and actually this paint is repaint too. This isn't even the factory paint. But anyway, if we get close and we get our inspection light and say, what's this going to look like in the sun? Now, get the light here. Yeah, see all those marks there? Just move the light around and let you kind of see. So it's those, there's a million names for this stuff too. Spider webs, marring, hazing, straight up scratches. That's a good angle. See around there all the... Okay. So we want to polish that. We want to paint correct that. Okay. So let me set it up and I'll kind of show you a real simple way. Again, this is going to be 10 times simpler than probably anything you see online. So before I start polishing, I'm going to assume that you've properly prepped the paint for polishing, which means it's clean. I do have a separate video on this. I'll put a link for it, but prepping the surface is really important. So we're going to skip all of the prepping part and just go right to the polishing. Okay, so hearing protection in. Pad, low speed, buffer on low speed. I've got my polish on here. I'm going to just do a section here. And I'm going to do 2 passes. Okay, so what I'm going to do is called 2 passes because I'm going to go down and I'm going to go up. Okay, now I can tell you right now that's not going to do much correction. And that's because I had it on low speed and I was just kind of spreading the polish around. When I sprayed the polish, I put a little too much. So there's a lot on there. So again, let's grab the camera, show you what this looks like. So this is your polishing compound. You're like this, flat. Okay. Not much pressure. Just get the excess off. Whip out the inspection light. Ooh, that did better than I thought it would. So not perfect, but for what we call 2 medium passes, because I was going medium fast, that's not bad. We go from there over to here. See the difference? See all that? As I come over here to where I did. So that tells me right there, just during that test, that this polish I'm using is good. That pad I'm using is good. I just need to go a little bit slower and a little bit more. Okay, which is exactly what I would expect on this. So we'll set the camera up again. Okay, now this time I'm going to turn the buffer up to 4. I like speed 4. And I'm going to show you what a full, what we call 4 slow passes looks like. Okay, it's going to go back and forth like you saw me do here, and then back up again. And then we're going to go up and down and side to side, up and down, and then up and down, back and forth. The reason we do all of that is for evenness. So we don't end up polishing one area a lot and another little area not very much. The other thing is, when I go like this, notice how this pad is up on the, what, am I talking loud because I got my earplugs in? Notice how this pad's going to overlap and come up here a bit, okay? That's so that we polish clear to the edge evenly. We're not starting here so that the edge doesn't get polished very much, okay? So then as I polish like this, when I go down, I'm going to go halfway. So see, there's the middle of that pad. I'm going to come down here, and I'm going to go like this, overlapping halfway. Again, so that makes it an even polishing. It's not going to be blotchy. And then you come down halfway. And the good thing is, the polishing compound trail that's left behind will tell you exactly where to go, okay? So then you go down, and then you just cycle your way back up. And then we're going to go up and down here like this. The last thing is pressure. How hard am I pushing? That's something that beginners always push too hard, or they're not really sure. You really, when you're polishing on a hood or a flat surface like this, you only need the weight of the buffer and the weight of your hand. Your hand just laying on it to control it. You do not need to push down, okay? Let the polish and the pad and the buffer do the work for you, okay? So you don't need pressure. On side like this, you're just holding it up against it, okay? You're not really pushing hard. Okay, so here we go. There you go. Something else you may have noticed is I never once moved my feet, okay? So the section you're working in, wherever you can comfortably put your feet, now I was turned like this for the camera, but wherever you can comfortably put your feet, you polish that far and this far. So all you're doing is bumping your hips this far. So that's as much as you're going to do at one time, okay? Ergonomics is huge. You may not think of it at first, because at first you're going to have lots of energy. But if you polish this whole car, especially as a beginner, you're going to get tired. And the problem is, in the beginning, you'll be fine. But halfway through, you'll get so tired, now you'll start cutting corners. You know, you'll buff this fast. And you won't quite get to the bottom because you're tired and you want to get down like this. Okay? So ergonomics is important in there. Just back and forth to what your hips and the range within your body. You're not reaching way over here like this. Okay? So now, let's see how we did. Do our wipe off. Okay. Inspection light. Okay. That's, again, really good for this old of paint on repaint. Okay, so that's another skill, is learning where to look in your light. You'll move it all around different angles until you finally catch the right angle that shows you what you want to look at. Okay, and so the camera's going to pick up different stuff, but generally you'll get the idea. If you're looking around the light, either the direct reflection or out in that area, And there's not a ton to see here, right? Because it's corrected. Let me get over here where it hasn't been corrected. Okay, see all those lines? See how they're mostly gone here. And for as old a paint as this is even better than I thought for doing a video. Okay, so that is paint correction. Do those steps that I just outlined. Okay, if you just do that, you're going to achieve incredible results. Okay, now, how many products and stuff did I use? Not very many. And yes, I'm super experienced, but did what I do just look like magic? You know, not really. You'll be there within a day of practice. Now, I'll give you a couple of little tips on harder surfaces to get to. Let me get the camera set up again. Okay, some other little tips. That part was easy because it's nice and flat and I've got this propped open, super easy. The mark of a real good detailer is to be able to get all the edges all the way to make the whole thing look even. So a couple of things. Remember when I said about the edge of the pad, the shape of that profile? That is for things like this. As I come up right here, I want to get as close to that as I can, right? But the closer I get, the more I run the risk of hitting it with this edge right here and causing damage or turning it white. Same thing up under here, or any number of places that may be difficult. If I'm polishing the underside of this, now I could get into the window. So you kind of get what I'm saying here. So having that profile really helps to control that. Now, back in the day when we polished with the high-speed rotaries we talked about, these guys, when we were using these guys and wool pads that were very aggressive, we had to mask this kind of stuff off. We take tape, still have it, as I back and forth it here, wide masking tape, and tape that off so that you didn't run the risk of burning it, because this would get near that edge and it's going really fast, right? You may burn that plastic. Or you get up in here and you're polishing it and it hits right there and you may burn that. Okay, so you'd mask that stuff off. You don't have to do that anymore because this isn't going to burn anything. The second thing is the polish that you use. If I'm using that Opti polish that does not turn white, I don't care if a little bit of polish gets on this textured black because it ain't going to turn white. And I can go like this and wipe it right off and I'm done. Cheap polishes that you sling, that fly up here on the plastics, and then a week later you come out and look at your car and you go, wait, what's all this stuff on it? It's white. It's because it's a cheap polish. Okay, so use the good polishes that don't have fillers. Watch your edges. And this is where like that mini buffer I showed you come in handy. Actually, in this area, what I would really do is just take your license plate off and do the back of it anyway. The other thing is emblems. You get your edge up to it and go around it, and that's good enough. You don't have to go on it, okay? Because that's just going to jam polishing compound in the cracks. And then you're going to have to take a toothbrush or something, go in there and dig it out. And it didn't do you any good to do that. So go around the edges like that on emblems. Okay? With these tricks, you will kick butt. Super simple. If I've forgotten anything or there's a specific question you have, put it in the comments. I love helping newbies out. And if you happen to be in the Beaverton, Oregon area, stop by. I'll answer questions in person, maybe even do a little demo for you on your own car. Okay? Thanks for watching.